Okay, so hey guys. First of all, I need to check if it's working. Yeah, it's working. So a few days ago, on the integration with my team was trying to convince me to tell you a joke. And I decided that, okay, maybe I'll do it at the beginning. And I find a great joke, like really bad, like really dry. And I forget it. So sorry, we'll be starting with just me and my introduction. So as you can see, my name is Agnieszka Zygmunt, and I'm the lead UX researcher in the 10 Clouds. What means that on one hand, I'm just leading the team of UX experts, but on another hand, I'm still making the whole execution. So the UX research, UX strategy, service design, mainly with the product discovery stage. So the first stage when we are looking for the product, when we are looking for the idea. And today I want to tell you something more about the values. And I know, like, we are talking about the values all the time. It's nothing new. Like, we can read about the values for the marketing, for the copy, for the design, that we need to have the values for the company, that we need to have the values for the product, that we need to have the values for any service. But we are still talking that we need to have the values. We are not talking about this practical approach, how we can really use the values. Because having the values is one thing. It's like the first step. Using the values, delivering them to the users, is the next step that we are quite often forgot about this. So today we'll be talking about this practical approach. Of course, I won't be talking about, I don't know, UVP canvas or something like this. It will be more about the tools that we are using in the 10 Clouds that you also can use in your process, in your day-to-day work. But going back to basics, like if we want to talk about the values, what is the value? And the most common one when we are talking about the sentence that will describe the values is that values answer the question, why should I care? And yes, it's a really good definition, but if we'll try to do this more simple, it will be like the value is something that is important for someone. It's something that has the worth. And this is about how useful is something for someone. And as you can see, we have something and someone in different color. And this is the reason because we are not able to have the value without the context. We need a person, and we need an object, a project, a service to have a value. Because this value, this project needs to be useful for the specific person. For one person, maybe there will be a value in our product, for another not. So we need to have something, the product, and we need to have someone. And if we want to go even deeper, we can tell that, of course, it's related to the design process, that we have different types of the values. So for example, we have company values. I call this like high values. So it's all about the vision, all about the manifesto we have. We have the designer values. So it's all about the rules we have. It's all about our ethic, how we want to work, how we want to deliver something. We also have values related to buyer values, so it's the key to sell something. And we have user values, so it's all about the needs. And we have this division between the buyer and the user because not always the buyer is the user of our solution. And okay, like we have different types of the values, but when we are building something, the product, the service, of course, not always we are doing this, but we should consider that every of these types of the values is building the product and the service. It's not like this that we are only taking the values of the user and we are trying to build a service, because every action from our side as designers, every action from our side as a company, every values that we have, also it affect the product and the service that we are building. But OK, this is the whole theory about the values. But when we are talking about the reality, on one hand, we have user, we have company, we have designers. But on another, there are values. And it's like, we're living on Earth, and the values is something that is this shining star in the background. Like, everyone have the values, but if we will consider how they affect us and our work, and if we will just ask people, like, OK, you have the values, but how you are giving these values to the users, there's a silence. Because we have the values on the website, for example. We have the values in the presentation. We have the list of the values after the whole UX research, product discovery thing. But we don't know how we can really use them as a tool. So the main question that I will try to answer today is how we can really use them, like really, not only to list them and have them in the documentation, in the manifesto on the website, but really use them in the design process. But still, taking a small step back, if we want to talk about the values, we need to also talk about the promise. Promise is something simple. It's about telling someone that you will certainly do something, or maybe not. And it's based just on needs and the problems we have as users. And the promise is the first element of the values. Because on one hand, we have the promise. So we are promising something to the user. Then we have fulfillment of this promise. So this is the solution that we are building. And at the end, we are giving the value by this fulfillment. And just to be more clear, like, for example, we have this conference. And maybe this is not the main promise, but for this presentation, I will be using this as a promise. So the main promise is that you will gain the knowledge. So if you will buy the ticket, if you will go here or watch the whole conference online, you will gain some knowledge. So this is the promise that the whole design ways is giving to you. And then, to be able to give this knowledge to you, we have this fulfillment. So it's all about different solutions that design ways are doing. So it's about finding our right speakers. It's about preparing the agenda. It's about preparing the speech. So, for example, and me being on the stage and talking to you. This is all the solution. And by this solution, at the end, we are giving, as a design ways, the design ways is giving you the value that you learn something. So we have a really simple promise that you will learn something. We have the solution. So every action that design ways is doing, and people on the stage, and everything. And then we have the value that you really learn something new, I hope. So it's really simple, and it's really logic. But in normal situation, we are working in really complex projects. So it's quite normal that even if we know that we have the promise and we know that we have the value, we are focusing mainly on the middle part. So we are focusing mainly on the fulfillment of the promise, so on the solution. And it's OK. Like, I'm also doing this, even if I'm talking to you about the values right now. Because if you are working on something for months or maybe for years, it's normal that you are focusing on your daily job and the goals that you have related to the sprints you are working on right now or something. So we are focusing on the solution. But as you can see, the solution is in the middle. The solution is not the end goal. We are not building the solution to just have the solution. We are building something to give the value. So forgetting about the value can be a really big mistake for us because we are losing the goal that we want to reach. And I want to tell you a story. The story that happened to me all the time because I'm working in the product discovery. So you're starting a new project. And you start to talk to the users. You're really excited about everything because you find a lot of great insights. And after a long time, you find out that, OK, you were quite excited, but there's a lot of users. Even if you have only 1 or 2 target groups, there's a lot of different personas, and they have different needs and problems, and everyone wants something different, so you just hit the wall because you don't know what you should do. If you should go with one solution, but it will be a really complex one, maybe you should, I don't know, choose 1 or 2 personas. Maybe you should build, I don't know, a few products for different personas. You just hit the wall because you have so many informations about the needs and the problems. And of course, as I said, it happened to me all the time. And in the last project, I was working on one product. It was related to the whole service, related to banking services. So it's about these video conferences between the client and the advisor in the bank, so you don't need to go to the branch to talk with the advisor, and you can, for example, just meet with them on the video conference and, I don't know, close your bank account. So we have this one product, and we have different target groups. We have the buyer. In this case, it will be the bank, because bank will be buying this service, this product. We have the middle users. So it's all about the employees, people who are working in bank, all about the advisors, because they're really important. They will be using this product on daily basis, even if they are not deciding to buy this, even if they won't be, I don't know, filling the surveys at the end. They are in the middle, and they will be using this on the daily basis. And we have the end user, so all people who are the client of the specific bank. And if we will go even deeper, we have different personas, because we don't have only one bank. Like, we have different bank types. We don't have only one type of the employee. We have different advisors, we have different people, different employees. And then we have end users. And it's quite obvious that we have different personas here also, because we can have business clients, we can have younger one, older one, people who have loans, and people who only have one account. So we have 3 main target groups, but we have different personas. And in the middle of the interviews with the middle users, we find out this is only the screenshot from a really small part of the insights. So we find out that even if we have only a few personas, we have a lot of information and needs, and every persona wants something different. And we started to ask ourselves, okay, what we should do right now, because we are not able to choose only one persona here, because all the banks, all the stakeholders, they're looking for the solution that will be ready to use for all the advisors they have in the company. So what we should choose as the priority here? What will be the main focus? Because we have really different needs, different problems, and different expectations. So we decide that even if we have a lot of data, that we can start to go, I don't know, with problem, solution, fit thing, and we can start to look for the solutions, we decide that instead of looking for solution, we will be looking for values and promises. We did this before with the stakeholders and on the workshop with clients, but we decided that, okay, we have enough data, we can just make the step back and check if the values and promises we set are the same that we have from the research. So as you can see, instead of going to this quite common approach that we are focusing on the solution, we decide to change direction. So go with values and promises to look if we have the values that will be helping us to find a right solution. And what was quite interesting here, that this is only about 3 personas, there was more, but we find out that when we were focusing on the values, and we have these 3 different personas, we have different values here. So, for example, for the first persona, the value for the advisors is that they want to have a higher level of service for existing clients. So they are looking for this value. For the second persona, the value for them it will be if they will be able to increase the market reach. So it's all about gaining new customers. So as you can see, we have higher level of service and we have new customers. And the last one, the value for them, it's not about new customers or higher level of the service. The value for them is just to have more time for serving the customers they already have. So by looking for these values, we find out that, like, being honest, it will be the same product. It will be, even if they have different expectations and problems and needs, it will be the same product and the same features. But there will be a different story. Because if we will go to the second persona and tell them, okay, like, we have something genius, it will help you to have a higher level of servicing of your existing customers. You will be really happy using this. They will be like, nah, I don't need this. If we will go to the second persona and tell to them, okay, like, we have a really exciting product for you, and you will be able to have higher level of service, they will be like, nah, I don't need it. I don't have customers right now. So as you can see, the same product and the same features will be good for all of them, but only if we will tell them a different story, if we will adjust the story to the values they are looking for, to the end goal they are looking for by using our service. It's not about the solution. It's about the value that will be at the end. And okay, amazing. Like, happy for me that I find a solution for my project. But how can you use values as a tool? So it's all about, right now, all about this practical approach. So first of all, I'm sorry for this, but just remember about them. I know that this is the kind of advice like, okay, I have depression, so okay, so go for a walk. But still, if you want to use something, you need to remember about this. You are not able to use values as a tool if you don't remember that you have the values and you want to use them as a tool. So this is the first thing you always need to do. But if you remember that you have the values or you need to find the values, first of all, establish them. But of course, it's not only about the values. As you were saying on the diagrams before, we have promises, solution, and the values. So we are starting with the promise, and we should also care about this when we are talking with the client. So we are establishing not only the values, but we are also establishing the promises. Because on the example I was telling you about design-wise, and the promise we have at the beginning and the value that we have at the end, it's really simple, because the promise and the value is really similar. But sometimes the promise will be more complex. And at the end, we will have not one, but a few different values. So having the promises, it's like just having the description, what will be the motive for us, why we should begin something, why we decide to do this product. So we have the promises and the values, and just establish them during the kickoff with the client. I know it's simple, but we are not doing this. If you can do this, make a user research if you can. Of course, not always there's a time and you have resources, but if you have, just ask the users and look for the values and the promises. And just add them to your current process, because if you have the values on the paper, even if you establish them during the kickoff and you won't be using them in the next stages, it will be like the star when we are on the Earth. So if you are in the process of establishing them, please remember that there will be different values. And of course, they will be different for different personas, but not only. There also will be different for different user journey stages. So taking the same example of the design way. So probably the main promise and the main value will be about the knowledge. So It's on the bottom one. So we have the knowledge and at the beginning, and we have the knowledge at the end. And probably it will be the value that will be in every stage, that we want to have a knowledge about something. But please remember about the whole process before you participate in the design phase. Maybe when you were buying the tickets, you were looking for the value that's related to support and security because you are paying for something. When you are looking for the value right now in the conference, it's not only about the knowledge, it's like being honest, it's also about fun and just having good time here. When we are talking about things that are happening right now and also after the conference, maybe there's a value related to the sense of the community. So we have the main values that will be with us for the whole journey, but still, in different stages, we have different values. And we need to remember about this, because sometimes when you will be building a product, and for example, you have, I don't know, KYC process or just sign in, it's something that you will be doing maybe only once as a user. So you need to remember that you have specific values in this stage, and probably you won't be using these values in the next stages, but you need to remember to add them to the stage of the process that you are designing. And when you have these different values, just adjust the story and communication. Like, we are not able to go only with the one communication in every stage with every value for every persona. We have different personas, we have different values on different user journey stages, so we need to adjust the story. And if you have everything, so you establish this with client, you know that there are different values, you have them, maybe even on the customer journey map, make a checklist. I know, still, it's really simple, but we are not doing this. Like, if you have something and you know that you will be using these values all the time, just make a checklist to be able to check it during the process of the design, during the user testing, just to be sure that you are giving this value, just to be able to share this with other departments, because we are not working in space, we are working each other in the company. If you are building the product, also marketing is building this product. Also, there is business strategy and everything. So if we have this checklist of the values, it's really easy to show to other people, like, you also need to check if you have the values in the strategy, not only in the design. And this is the most simple one. But as you can see, if you are looking for the value related to price transparency, when you're in the middle of, I don't know, designing some specific view, you can just check if you have this. If you are looking for the value related to the privacy, you can also just check, okay, do I have this in the communication, or maybe I need to add a small feature that I will be, I don't know, making something private only for me. If you are looking for the value related to community, maybe it's not about making a new feature or building a community. Maybe it's about how you will name some specific things. Because when we have, for example, FAQ with the questions, it can give the value of having FAQ, or it can give the value of having the community, because we have different communication here. So it's all about thinking how we will just show this to the user. And if the simple checklist it's not enough for you, because we are working on complex projects too, you can organize it. Like, I know, it's still simple, but you can just go from general to details, because a smaller organization of every information about promises, values, and the solution will be just a simple guide for you. So it will be guiding you what you need to do, because you will know the end goal of the whole process. And also it will support you when you are thinking about making decision what you should do next. And as you can see, this table is really simple. We have the promise of the service or the product. Then we have all the details So it's all about needs, expectations that are related to this promise. Because as I said, like the promise can be really complex and it's based on the needs and the problems and the expectations. And then we have the values that user is expecting. So as you can see, we have specific order. We are talking about the promise, the first part. Then we're talking about the details, it's related to the promise. And we are talking about the values, so something that is at the end. And after this, we are thinking about the solution. So we know why we are doing this, we know what will be the end goal, and then we are thinking about this middle part, because having promises and values, it supports us for thinking about the right solution, because the solution needs to help us to fulfill the promise and give a value. So we need to know what will be fulfilling and what we want to give at the end. But it's really simple, I know. But maybe you have a product and you want to, I don't know, check, make an UX audit or something. Maybe you can also change this. I was working 2 years ago, I think, on the redesign of the service for one of my clients. It wasn't about the product, it was about the service design. So, whole strategy also was related to this. And instead of thinking about the solution, because it was an audit, we were looking for the values. Because we find out at some moment that there is a problem. And no one was able to find out why we have this problem, even us, as researchers. We were looking for the problem for weeks. It was like 8 weeks. The whole project was like 12. And it was the moment when we were hitting the wall. And it was quite hard for us. But we decided, OK, what about the values? What values we are giving right now? What values we have right now in the company? And what values maybe we need to add? And it was great because we find out that we have different promises. And for the one promise, there was a hole. We didn't find any value in the company. But of course, clients were expecting some values at the end. So it was really easy for us to just go to the company, to the client, to the stakeholders, and tell them, like, as you can see, this is the audit of your whole service, of your product. And you have a hole here. We need to fill this hole with something. This is our proposition, what probably will be the best, because this is the expectation of the users. But we need to fill this. This is the source of the problems, all the problems in the communication you have. But maybe you have the problem with the communication, with the stakeholders. So maybe instead of looking more about the values, you can go and look for the solutions and explain them why, for example, this choice will be better, or maybe why we should not go with this and this solution. Because if you have this promise, details, and values, so something that you establish with the client, and you agreed that you want to give the value, the specific value or values we have here, and then it's really easy to show them that, OK, there we have solutions that are supporting the value we want to give, but here we have solutions that will be against. And for example, if we want to give the security, maybe it will not be the best idea to ask them at the beginning about all the documents and uploading them. So it's really easy for us, a simple tool that can help you to just support your decision and showing why we should choose this solution instead of the solution, even if the stakeholder is thinking that, OK, my solution is the best, we should go this way. And if you have everything like this, so you have the values, you establish the values, you know that you have different values, you try to organize them, you need to use them, and not only use them once, you need to check and update them. Because like in every situation, people are changing. So also the values are changing. So you need to check if the user values has not changed. And you also need to check if you are delivering them in the process, especially that you are working on something for a really long time. And for example, you build a solution, and in the middle you find out, okay, we need to add a new feature, because maybe it will change everything. And for example, you are stop giving the values that you were thinking that you are giving. Maybe you are doing the redesign of the whole service, product, website, whatever, and you also stop giving the values because you changed something. We need to remember that having this checklist or the list of the values and checking should be our daily basic or monthly or whatever, but we still need to check this to be sure that we are giving the values. It's not only about one time. And at the end, cooperate. I know it can be hard. I hope that most of us are here from the design, but I know it can be hard to work with other departments and the whole communication and explaining why we should do this way, not that way. But still, values, first of all, are not only for the marketing and not only for the design. The whole product should have them. If we have the values in the design, but we have a really bad communication, the client will not know that we have the values because they will not use the product. If we have great values in the design and marketing, but something wrong is in the business strategy, maybe in the middle of using our service or product, they will just give up because they find out that something is not working. The whole product, the whole service need to be related to the values that we are giving to the customers. So if we want to be sure that we are giving them by the whole product, not only by the design, we still need to cooperate. And to sum up, because I'm running out of time, I just want us to stop saying that we have the values and start using them. Like, we are saying that we need to have the values. We are looking for them and writing them down for years right now. So I think this is the best moment that we really should start to use them, because we can use them as a tool for us as designers and other departments. Because having values is worthless if we are not delivering them. It's just like this shining star in the background is like the manifesto of the company who don't think about the values and don't delivering the values to the employees. It's something that is really high in the middle, high in the stars, but we are not able to reach this, or we don't know how it can be affecting us or the project. And values can be shown by whole service and the whole product. As I said, it's not only about the communication, and we need to start to remember about this. It's also about our decisions, what features we want to have in the product, how we want to show these features, how we want to name something, how we want to design the whole journey of the customers. It's all related to the values that they are expecting at the end, because the values are the end goal for the user. And if we will do this right, and if we'll be remembering about the values, they can be our guide in the process. So if we are working on something complex, of course, it will be still a shining star, but it will be the star that are showing us the direction, in which direction we should go. And the last one, I'm always telling this when I'm speaking to other people, that still, this is the tool. And tools are there for us, not us for the tools. So if you need to change something in the tool, please do this. It needs to help you to give value to the user, to remember about the value, to organize every information related to this. This is not the situation that you need to use values because you need to use values. It's something that needs to help you to deliver the value for the customer, for the user, for the person who will be really using this, not only for us as designers. And thank you very much from my side. It's all.
Time for questions now, so put your hand up if you have a question, and we have 10 minutes for that.
Jaka cisza.
Silence.
Hi. So I'm here. So I try to do it in English as well as your presentation. But you mentioning that a great presentation, by the way. Are you mentioning that values might be and should be seen as a tools, but in fact, which tools can we use to actually discover them? Maybe in a workshop process or during discovery phase for a product. So are there any canvas or other tools that you would recommend to actually use with client?
Okay, so there's a reason why I wasn't talking about specific tools today, like the tools that you know, because as I said at in the last sentence, that I believe that the tools are helping us, but we are not here for the tools. And we can start just with the questions. So everything what I was showing you, that we can use a simple checklist. We can just ask the customers, the client, the stakeholders, what values we need to have here. It's the base. And right now we are not doing this in every process. So we should start with this. And then we can go even deeper. So we can go with UVP Canvas, we can go with the interviews with the customers, and just looking for the values that they are showing to us, that they want to have. It's all about asking proper questions rather than having and using a specific canvas, because even if we are talking about the values so much, probably we have only the UVP Canvas that is the most common one. And in other situations, we just need to remember and learn how to ask proper questions to understand the values that users are expecting from us. I don't know if I answered the question, but I hope it.
Yes, thanks.
Do we have any other questions?
Cześć.
I would like to check if I understood correctly. Because at the beginning you made a division between of the values, like buyer values, user values, business values, and there was nothing next to the user. There were needs next to the user. So I would like to understand the granularity of these values to be able to present this to my team. And in my case, would it be proper leveling if I said that users, for example, need a certain guidance and simplicity? Should I stop at this level when talking about solutions and features that are sprouting? And maybe we should stop this solution generation. So basically what I'm asking is, what should be the level of detail when depicting the user needs? I know this is a favorite answer, but it depends, because it really depends on the project you're in and on how much time you have. If you're in a project where you don't have much time, it's better to have any guidelines that will lead you. Like, for example, that it should be simple and usable and transparent, to remember about this and deliver this. If you are in more advanced projects, and I'm lucky to be in research that we conduct for months, and this is when you can allow yourself to go very deep into details. But at the end of the day, we regroup the information and finally we achieve this higher vision. So it really depends on how much time you have, because it's like with academic knowledge. It's good to have it. It's good to be able to go into details, But actually, in business, it's very difficult to adjust this process to deliver the value to the client, to the user, sorry, and to build everything in time, because on the other end you have these business needs. So I'm sorry I'm not giving you a clear-cut answer, but really it depends on how much time you have. Personally, I prefer to go as deep as I can and then try to regroup things in more general chunks of knowledge, because it gives you context, but you don't always have time. You say if you have more time, then we listen about these very detailed needs, like simple user stories. Like, for example, they want to buy something quickly without filling in a long form. And after a couple of examples like this, we might find out that they want to do it quickly and feel safe at the same time. Yes, I know that I wrote about needs next to the user, and I know it could be misleading now, but it's not like. But it depends on the project. And for example, if you use affinity mapping, where you have a large number of problems and details, you can regroup this into smaller groups and then try to synthesize it again. And it's similar with values. The moment you find yourself in grouping depends on how many findings you had and what you need at the given point. If you need a value that will lead you through the whole customer journey, or if you are in a certain small phase and you need a very detailed answer that I see some hands up, but I will leave you with this for after the lecture. I have one question from
Values,
Slido.
presentations and jobs to be done. Wydaje mi się, że można po polsku.
I have a big problem with jobs to be done, because when I was trying to research this phenomenon, I found very different opinions about what jobs to be done is. There is a general framework, but if you go deep, you see that people who are experts, they actually quarrel about this. So jobs to be done is related to the actions, while values can be something more metaphysical, something that gives you a general sense of, for example, security. And jobs to be done will always be closer to the activity. So that's probably the greatest difference that you can notice. I'm sorry I'm looking at you, but you actually asked the question.